Hey y'all, welcome back. I'm Shayna Cersei. I'm so excited to paint with y'all today. Today we're going to be doing another page in our watercolor journals, and we are going to do some fun little quirky illustrations. I'm going to do some owls. They are not going to be traditional owls. They might not even look like owls to y'all, but I'm going to do some fun little whimsical, like I said, quirky little illustrations. That's just the mood I'm in today. We're going to do some drawing and some painting. So let's go over supplies really quick. I'm working in my Bao Hong sketchbook, watercolor journal, 140-pound cold pressed paper, 100% cotton. 6x9 is the approximate size. I have a pencil. I have some illustration pens back here. They're archival ink, so they're waterproof, and not so they're waterproof, but they are waterproof and they're archival ink. I have velvet touch brushes, round 6, 10, 4. You definitely don't need all these sizes, but this is what I have kind of sitting next to me right now, so that's what I'm going to pull from. And then I have my core watercolor paints, so QOR by Golden. That's just my preferred brand, but whatever brand you have will work wonderfully. I've used lots of different brands. And if you check out the description, you can see not only the colors I used for core that are in this 24 color palette, but also other brands I've used before. Daniel Smith, Winsor Newton, all of them. Whatever works for you is what works for you. And that's great. Okay, so I am going to start with a little bit of a drawing. I am going to create these very simple shaped owls, but we're going to build some layers of shapes on. So the first one I'm going to do a slightly larger one and a slightly smaller one. So let's see how best to, so the body of the first one is going to be just this big kind of oblong shape here. And then it's gonna just kind of sneak up into two little ears, like tiny little ears. The dome of the head, another tiny little ear up there, little owl ears. So super simple. We're gonna give a little triangular forehead, and now here are the eyes. This is where kind of the magic happens, and certainly the quirkiness can happen. One eye, two eyes. You can have them close together, you can have them touching. The next set I'll probably have touching. And then big pupils, and then tiny little dots. Now, you want to get real quirky, you make the eyes kind of go all wobbly every which way. Looks super weird right now until the black part gets painted in. But I'm going to give myself some wings here and a little beak. Okay, and then what else do I want to add here? Anything? A lot of it I'm going to add in the painting in terms of some patterning and design on top of the owl. So I'm just putting in 3 little claws for feet right there. Looks great. Now let's give this guy a little friend. I am going to make him a little shorter, a little rounder. So we're just going to draw a big kind of ball right here. And then I'm going to give him like this shape here that's going to set up his eyes, his little beak. His eyes are going to be super close together and touching. And I'm going to put the pupils kind of towards the top, giving him a big kind of doe-eyed look, like he's looking up. We'll give him some little eyebrows. And again, some little clawed feet. And we're going to make them sitting on a branch. I could give him ears too, but you could also leave the ears off. Some owls you don't see like their ears at all. All right, so let's put a little branch under them. And we'll have some leaves. Some kind of, some branching off branches here. and I can give that like more attention later on in terms of the details. And then I'm also going to take my round tape here. I'm going to put a little moon, a big moon, not a little moon, a big moon behind them, kind of in that theme with the other folk art style pieces that I do. I add that big moon in there. So there are my two little owls. Aren't they adorable? Wait till you see them when they're all colored, painted in and patterned. And like I said, they're a little funky. They're definitely illustrative, but that can be so much fun. Okay, so once you've drawn everything in, if you want to lighten things up a little bit so you're not seeing your pencil lines so harshly, if you're planning to do ink over top of them later on, then you don't have to worry about the pencil lines too much. I'm going to lighten them up a little because I haven't really decided. I want to paint them in first and decide if I want to add ink as part of the piece. My kneaded erasers are getting old. I'm gonna have to replace them soon. They're getting like harder and not as gummy, a little more brittle. So that's what happens after a while. They've absorbed so much graphite. They start to get a little brittle, and eventually you'll have to retire them. But if you don't have a kneaded eraser yet, I highly recommend them. Make your life a lot easier. You don't get all those crumbs and bits from a traditional eraser. They're much gentler to the paper and not as harsh as a traditional eraser. So link in the description if you're looking to figure out what a kneaded eraser is or how to spell it or whatever. You can find them right online and at your local art stores very simply. Okay, so let's get painting our little owls. I haven't even decided what color I want to paint them yet. I already have purple here. Purple, that purple and green we used in our last video over here could be a lot of fun, actually, for one of them. Let's do that. All right, I'm going to start with some green gold. And some Dioxazine purple. I'm going to paint around, so let's see, the green gold, I'm going to paint around the eye. So the outermost layer of the eye is going to be white, and then black, and then white again. And then I'm going to come inside the wing. So I just dipped my brush in a bunch of water, and I'm using water to spread the paint that's already here. You don't always have to pick up more paint. Sometimes you just need more water on your brush to help the paint move and do what it's going to do. Sometimes you need a little more paint. I'm going around the beak. And I'm going up into the ear, but like around the eye here. Actually, we'll go over to the edge. The wings I'm going to do in the purple color, and the triangle in the forehead. So pick up my purple. You may want to let things dry, or you may want to let things bleed into each other. Personal preference here. But just remember, these colors are pretty close to complementary, so when they bleed into each other, they will make kind of a neutral brownish color, which I think is just fine for owls. Dropping in some more darker color. Oh, I dropped in a bunch of water there. Pick it up with this other brush. All right. Now, you can move on to your other owl. You can stick with this one. You can let this one dry. I'm going to pick up some Payne's Gray. I'm going to do my inner eye. So I'm going around the tiny circle in the middle. If you mess it up, or you eat up too much of that tiny circle in the middle, and then, excuse me, and then it's no longer big enough or white enough, that would be a great use case for putting some bleed-proof white on top. So if you don't know what bleed-proof white is, it's an opaque paint product. This is Dr. P.H. Martin's bleed-proof white. This is the brand that I prefer, but there are other brands. Winsor & Newton and Daniel Smith both have a bleed-proof white, different than watercolor white. So this is not watercolor, it's a water-based paint, slightly different, much more opaque, that thick white kind of highlight that you want, but it dries matte versus glossy like an acrylic would. So you could use acrylic paint as well, but that's going to be a totally different sheen. And will dry glossy because acrylic paint is basically plastic. So see how that painting in the eye kind of brings everything together. He doesn't look so creepy. He looks very sweet now. All right, and we can just, I'm going to do just black for the little feet. You could come back in and do these in ink if you wanted later on. And then for the nose, you could do lots of different colors. I'm just going to do a orange color. There we go. Let's give this guy some eyebrows too. I think eyebrows are fun. All right, so there we go, our first little owl, and let's do our second one. What colors does our second one want to be? Let's do like maybe blue. Maybe phthalo blue and green gold. So I'm going to paint the bottom. I'm going to go around the little beak. And then up in the eye mask area, I'm going to do the green gold color. Back to the green gold. So this green gold color got like no love from me in my palette for probably over a year. Then I started using it and I am just on a green gold kick as of late. So I'm using my size 4 brush. These are pretty tiny and allows me a little bit more control. There we go. I'm going to drop in a little extra color in certain spots, and I'm going to drop in a little water, I think, in here, just to give it that true watercolor kind of look and feel. I don't want it to be super flat. All right, so we're going to go into the eyes on this one as well. A little Payne's gray. And I do think I'm going to outline the outer edge of the eyes, the white part that touches up against the color. But I'm going to wait. Maybe I'll do that in ink. So pupil placement is important, and the highlight is important because that shows you the direction that your little bird is looking in. And hopefully this is dry enough. There we go. All right. And last but not least, let's do a little yellow beak. There we go. Okay, so let's give these guys a background. I'm definitely going to switch to my bigger brush. Now we have the moon here, so we're going to work around that. I am going to use like a navy color to represent kind of nighttime, but I'm not going to worry about it being super dark. I know this is going to dry lighter, and I'm okay with that. So I use Phthalo blue and Payne's gray mixed together, and I'm going to go around my moon. I am going to paint leaves and stuff on top of this, so I actually kind of want it to be a little bit lighter. This is the hardest part right here. Kind of getting in around your owls without making too much of a mess. There's a couple ways you can do that, but I'm just doing wet on dry and just trying to be super careful. And you can see that first line I put down. I put it down pretty dark, but not very wet. Does that make sense? There was a lot of pigment. It was very concentrated, but there wasn't quite enough and enough water, so it dried very quickly. And now I have that line there. There's some things you can do to fix that. Basically, you just have to add more paint, kind of that same value. So a nice darker paint there. I'm going to go back around and blend it out. But I'm going to let the sky be kind of like not perfectly flat. I'm going to force a little funkiness. Just kind of scrubbing in color, leaving darker areas, leaving lighter areas. We'll drop in some water. We'll force some back runs, like over here. Give it a kind of a spooky feel. Now it looks super dark right now, but it is going to lighten up a little bit as it dries. I'm going to also go under the branch because the sky will continue under the branch. The thickest part of the branch I'm going to work around, but like the smaller branches up here, I'm just going to paint over my outline. right, we're going to let that all dry. And then we're going to come back and add some details for the branch and some leaves, the moon, and maybe some ink details around our owls. I'm definitely going to come and use a little bleed proof white and some ink to put some patterns on them. All right, let it dry. All right, we're back and everything is dry. And it looks a little sloppy right now, but I think it's all going to come together on these last few steps. And if it doesn't, it's okay. That's why we do it in our watercolor journals, our sketchbooks. And if we ever wanted to make this piece more refined, we would take what we've learned from this and refine it and do things a little differently. So this is going to kind of go over. So we're putting in our branch. And this branch was a combination of raw umber, which is like a cool shade of brown, and Payne's gray. So now I'm going to add in the smaller branches, which are going to go over top of the blue. So let me get just more of this brown made up. And it's nighttime, we're backlit by the moon, so everything kind of is in silhouette. And we'll add on some super dark leaves as well. So I don't want to get too crazy with branches because I want the leaves to take up some real estate. Okay. Rinse my brush off completely. What I do want to do now is the moon. So I am going to paint this with water. So I'm going to make the whole thing wet. Hold on one second. I unclasped this because it was in my way, but now I'm going to just clasp it back down. All right, so we're going to paint again the whole thing in with water. Any part that you don't paint with water, so I'm going to leave a little sliver on the one side with no water on it, because that will stay pure white, which I think can be fun. And then I'm going to take my Payne's gray. Let me see if I can make a, you could do yellow and Payne's gray if you want to give it like a hint of color. I'm just going to stick with Payne's gray for the texture of the moon. So a little bit of Payne's gray with a lot of water. And I'm just going to drop that in around the edges and little dots kind of around a few other spots, and just let it do its thing. I'm going to make a few sections a little bit darker than others. Oh, that's super dark. But when you're adding it to already existing like water on the page, it's going to be even lighter. So you can go a little bit darker in some areas, because as it dries, it's going to lighten and lighten. So just keep that in mind. Sorry, I just got like somehow a chunk of paint on my paintbrush on the handle, and now it's all over my hands, so I don't want to get it. I'm Just rinsing my hands off in my water dish. I don't want to get it on the piece. All right, so there's our moon. Here's our little fellas. We're going to let our moon dry. I think our background is dry, so I'm going to take my bigger brush. I am going to take a little green gold and just start to create leaves. So this green gold with the blue background is going to mix and make like its own green. And I'm making these big, long, kind of wonky leaves. After the moon dries, I will definitely put some in front of the moon as well. And I'm going to take some sap green over my green gold with a little Payne's gray in it, really dark green, and just add some darker bits right over top as their own leaves, and also added to those green gold leaves just to give them some interest, some light. Just kind of building up. All right, we have to let our moon dry so I don't have to keep kind of working around it this way. So while that dries, these guys are dry. Let's do some patterning on here. And I'm going to take my size 5. Oh, sorry for shaking the camera there. Oh no, wait, this is a 0.005. That is way too small. What do I got here? I got a 0.3. 0.3 here. There we go. That's a little better. And this one's a... Alright, so like a medium-sized point, I am going to outline my funky little eyeballs. And I'm going to add some outlines to the wings, but I am going to use a little bleed proof white on these as well. And then, so I think to the center, I'm going to add these little triangles that are like representative of little feathers. I'm not going to make them perfectly aligned or everywhere, just like a scattering. I'm going to do some around the edges here. Beautiful. All right, this guy, I'm going to outline his little mask around the bottom. Maybe the top with his little ears. Cute. Okay, so I've put a little ink on there. Maybe I'll do the top here as well. But you can see I'm like sketching it. I'm not like leaving a perfectly harsh outline, because I like that look. And then I'm going to come in with some bleed proof white. So bleed proof white, I usually just put it in the cap, add a little bit of water, just enough to give it some flow if it's a little chunky or if it's a little dried out. If you have a brand new bottle, you can usually use it right from the bottle. All right, so now I have my little size 4 brush here. If you want to use a smaller one, go for it, but I'm just going to start to create some pattern texture along the wings here. I want to do dots on this guy, like polka dots. And let's see what else. Maybe I'll do little hashes above. I am going to give this guy some geometric shapes. I don't know why. But that's just what I want to do. So this is where we get funky. These aren't just simple little owl illustrations anymore. And let's see, what else? I'm gonna do open circles at the top here. And you know what, I'm gonna put some white over his eyebrows. I definitely feel like I have to do something up in the crown up here. So there we go. Oh, they're so cute. So you can pattern yours however you'd like. You can add more ink. You can add different colors, gold and silver, depending on what kind of tools and things you have. So let's go add some of these leaves over top of the moon. So if I go with my green gold, and then we add our dark green. So that was sap green and Payne's gray kind of mixed together. Add a few more layers. And I think we're done with our cute little owl illustration, our fun little tree, our big beautiful moon. These guys are super funky, super fun. I really enjoyed painting these. Don't forget to check out the description, like this video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, if you enjoy what I paint, of course. And thanks for following along. For those of you who are returning time after time, you guys are amazing. My super thanks contributors are amazing. I always appreciate you so much. And I'll see you all soon for our next watercolor journal page. Thanks for painting along with me, y'all. Take care.